Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Roland, how are you?
I'm doing great, mate. I'm doing great. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too.
Missed
Good
you
to hear your
last
voice.
week. Yeah, good to hear your voice. Yeah, missed you last week. We're just busy, but that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a busy week, but it was a good week, so
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And that idea of missing our conversations, and we talked about that at length before, so we don't need to revisit that. But I think part of that reality is because when we're in this space of just being able to talk together, it's a safe space, right? We've had lots of
Yeah,
conversations where we've been talking about stuff that perhaps we disagree on or whatever, but we don't have to worry about the motivation of the other person. Where our hearts are connected, and so this conversation is a safe space. So when you're not when it doesn't happen, you kind of miss that safe space. That's the way I feel about it anyway.
no, I feel about the same way.
Yeah,
You've been a great place of sanctuary and safety for me. So
and
I
vice
appreciate
versa.
it, Roland.
Vice versa. Here we go, patting each other on the back again. It's good though. That's that's always nice.
Yeah, well, it helps. It helps that you pay me to say it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right. Exactly. Stop it.
oh wait a minute, is this recording?
So we're recording. I'll have to cut that out. That's all. Oh, thank God for editing. Um, um, so that I had this brilliant segue in my mind. Now it's all spinning out of control. So the safe conversation, right? I don't, did you get a chance? Did you
Yeah.
get a chance to see that video that I did a couple of weeks ago about safety?
Yeah, we had Boo and
Yeah,
all of
uh,
that on the video, and yeah,
that's
that was really good.
that's the one.
I
I,
liked
I
it.
wanted to I wanted to talk with you about that concept. Safety has been a part of the construct of love that I've been trying to develop for a long time. The whole concept of trying, and safety has been a piece of that. But trying to articulate exactly what I mean
Mm.
by safety hasn't always been easy. But in that video, it kind of crystallized for me in preparation of actually trying to sit down and say something specific about it. And that phrase, identity safety, occurred to me as I was preparing for that, because that's what I'm trying to get at. That I love you enough, and you specifically, but you generically, that I will uh, not insist that you change your core identity to fit my worldview. Does that work for you? Does that ring a bell for you?
Yeah, I resonated a lot with your video. I was thinking about the whole idea of Boo. I think in the beginning of the video, you kind of talked about Boo and the way Boo chews on things and behaves in ways. And I remember I was having a Zoom conference one time, and he was just nipping at your legs
Yeah.
and biting you and all that stuff. And sometimes it's like, man, that's inappropriate, Boo.
That's right, exactly.
And I was just kind of thinking about that, because I was thinking, what I think you're hitting at is the security. I think of the word security, safety.
Right, right,
We're
right,
secure in our relationship with each other. There's
right,
nothing that can change that.
right,
And sometimes what we do is we assign someone's identity based on their inappropriate behavior,
hmm,
or behavior that we don't like. Maybe the behavior that we do like, but we oftentimes easily as humans can gravitate to the idea of, I watch and see your behavior, and then I say, you are, because of the way you behave, you are
right,
this person.
right,
And that's not very secure identity. That's not a safe identity. Because at the
right,
core of it, there's something core about you that is always you, no matter how you may or may not behave.
right. Exactly.
Does
That's
that
right.
make
And
sense? Like, I was thinking about that
absolutely,
today.
that's really good. Yeah.
I was thinking about that today because I was thinking about, even from a physical standpoint, when I was born and you were born and everyone that we know that we ever interact with was born, and a newborn baby, there was an invincible preciousness
Yes.
about their life when they were born
Yeah.
that had nothing to do with behavior. In
Right.
fact, they didn't perform
Right.
to be invincibly precious. They were
Right.
just born.
Exactly, John.
And
That's the
that is
heart
who
of it.
they were.
Yep.
As they grow, and I think about like, so I run some rolling right now, and I'm thinking, I'm like, don't run like I did when I was 16. I can run 4 miles, but I might feel it for a couple days. At 16, I didn't.
Right.
I feel like I'm that 16-year-old, but my body's not. But I'm the
Yes.
same person. Even though my cells have died and
Yep.
changed,
Yep.
I'm still the same person. There's something core about me that makes me
Right.
me, and that's identity.
Right, and that's really well said. That triggers thoughts for me too, because that is a human experience. People talk about that all the time. I'm now, what am I? I'm 58, something above 55, and but that experience of thinking about the world in terms of even there are moments where you think about it from the perspective of you as a child, and there doesn't seem to be any transition. It's the same me that's feeling that, and that's right. That's the core identity. And so if we're going to be secure and safe in that relationship, it's being able to preserve that in the other, because what tends to happen is that I feel like you have to become more like, you have to have my worldview, or you have to think about things the way I think about things. You have to like what I like in order for me to be safe. But that has to do with my own fears. And so being able to say to the other person, I value who you are, and because of that, we can journey together. I think I said it in the video. I mean, the fact that we all have to go through transitions in life and adjust and adapt and see change happen, and actually at the identity level, we need transformation, because so much of our identity is built in our pain or our failure, or so those things do have to change. But I'm not going to change if I'm with somebody that's demanding that I change. If I'm someone that's affirming that essential piece that you were just talking about, I can change. I can walk with that person and become more like the person I'm supposed to be in that environment.
Yeah, and as someone, for myself, that would believe that we're created in the image of a relational God, I say that invincible preciousness is grounded in that reality, and that doesn't go away.
Right.
That's always the consistent. And so I think sometimes it's hard because what we can't differentiate, and that's the whole guilt versus shame construct, right?
Right.
We can't differentiate between what I see you behave like and who you actually are.
Yep.
And we tend to put categories around people based on behavior first, more than anything else.
Yep.
And so that's not it. The baby that's got the invincible preciousness, who might end up being someone in their 50s or 60s that's hard-hearted and not kind and mean-spirited, whatever, still is that invincible preciousness that they were when they were a newborn.
Right.
But the pain of their life shaped them to a place, but they're still the same person with that same value. And that's the hard part to embrace.
And when you move that conversation over into conversations about who God is and the way God relates to us, that becomes significant, because I know in my Christian experience and growing up in church, it's very easy to get the idea that God is actually demanding that we change. But what if the reality is that what we experience from God is absolute, total embrace? And it is the embrace of love that allows us to process and journey by His grace and presence back to that space, back to that understanding of our worth. I really like that idea, because it's very, very different from the way that that we construct that, or I've constructed that in my journey up until starting to realize some of these issues.
Yeah, I know in my journey, that's been the place I've had to wrestle with in my own life. The God that I think is demanding that I change, almost as if my inability or ability to change is going to change God's sense of well-being about God. Right. Like I have that much power over God. It's almost like when I get to that space and like I'm going to somehow make God's sense of well-being change if I can't.
Right.
And God's sense of well-being is secure because God's identity is secure. And so there is nothing like that that's really going on other than it's my brokenness projected onto God.
Right.
And it's really it's an invitation. It's not a demand. It's an invitation into the space of embrace.
Right.
An embrace of our true identity.
So there's two ideas that immediately came to mind as you were speaking. That transference, that placing on God my brokenness, the recognition that I am broken is so essential into this story, because that's the way I view the world. It's in my brokenness. And so I then look at God from the perspective of brokenness. But the word you just used was invited. I'm being invited into this place of unimaginable love and acceptance and security, safety, in which transformation happens because I'm becoming the person that I was designed to be. And that's where the concept of the Christian concept of the Trinity becomes so important, because there is this unimaginable quality of love and relationship in the Trinity. And we're being invited to walk into that space. And it's not about performance at any level. It's about the centering of our lives within the context of that relationship.
Yeah. I often think about it in terms of a codependency reality, because kind of codependency is that place where my identity is insecure because it's so wrapped up in the other person.
Right.
And sometimes we really think God is codependent. On us.
Yeah.
And God's not. And that becomes a freeing space because it frees us to grow in the reality you just described.
Yeah. So when the Bible talks about freedom, that's what it's describing. There's a wonderful verse in the scripture that says, it was for freedom that Christ has set us free. And that's what you're describing. That's the reality.
Freedom.
Yeah. That's very cool. That's very cool. Well, thanks, John. This is just such a blessing, this conversation. I hope that people listening to this might get the same kind of joy out of it, or at least to have their imaginations trigger a little bit to that place of joy, because that's just truth that will change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I have a Venmo account, so you can now send the money through Venmo for the compliments.
You don't want me to, you don't need me to keep using PayPal?
No, I've gone to a different account. Just want to make sure you know.
Get out of here. See you later, John. I love you, mate.
All right, you too, man.